into a microphone is better. It's good.
I have to try this first.
Oh.
I got coffee.
It's a sound engineer.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here because he asked me.
Yes.
That's why. Oh yeah, if anyone gets a good picture of this later, send it to me because it's always fun to have. Anyway, yeah, I'm known as that drum guy, which is kind of weird. It's not a thing I was. It's not a thing I was aiming for. It's just something that happened. That when I started, I'm a drummer and I don't know anything about playing guitars. Sorry. But when I started playing drums when I was 15, I was like more interested in how it made, like why does the drums sound like they do. I was in a way more interested in that than actually playing. And I went to my band's jam space every time we rehearsed, and I sat there for hours before the other guys came and just tried to understand drums, because drums is a horrible instrument to record. And one of the reasons is...
Don't do that.
Oh, it's the...
Yeah, it's a guitar thing.
Love it.
Yeah. Just take your medication and avoid spasms. Just kidding.
I love it though.
Ladies.
No, like if you record a voice, or if you record a piano, or if you record a guitar amp, all you do, and I'm going to use that analogy because you're the lesser species of guitar players.
Arrogance is good, yeah.
I'm a drummer, so. Like the theory is not that hard to understand when you record something like guitar. It's not easy to record guitars either. No recording is easy, but it's easier to understand because the theory is basically you connect your guitar to your amp, you set your sound, and then you put one, maybe two microphones in front of the guitar cab, and then you record it. And then if you need to adjust something, oh, the mic translated the sound a bit different, then you just adjust it a little, and there you have it. With a drum recording, sometimes I record a drum kit with, let's say, 25, 30 microphones at the same time. That's horrible. And sometimes I record a drum kit with 3 microphones, which is also horrible. Because drums is a really stupid instrument. Because the drums were made... A drum kit is just something that evolved over a long time, and it was a marching band thing at first. You had one guy with a bass drum, you had one guy with a snare drum, you had one guy with the cymbals, you had one guy with the toms, and then over time we realized that why don't you play the bass drum with your foot? Why don't you play the hi-hat with your foot? Because at first the hi-hat was just like it was down here and it was just operated with your foot. And then we raised it up and started doing this thing, which is really, really stupid.
Yoga, record, Yoga is a fantastic drum. Yoga Gabai. And yeah.
So I have one friend here.
Yes.
Finally.
I feel so much better. But it is stupid, and it's a thing that is still a struggle in a way, because it's not an instrument that was made, and then basically it is what it is. It evolved over time, and it's got some solutions that are pretty not great for recording. So if you record a drum kit the old school way with, let's say, 3 mics, then you have all these different parts, bass drum, snare, cymbals, hi-hat, toms, and they all need to be captured by these few microphones. Let's say Led Zeppelin, for instance, that drum sound. That puts a very big demand on the drummer to mix him or herself when playing. You can't just go for that crash just because you feel like it you have to like tap it so it doesn't kill the sound, but at the same time maybe you need to have the bass drum really strong. So that's a big problem. And that was, the solution was of course more and more mics, and most of what I do is metal productions, even though I produce all kinds of music. But even like today, no matter the genre, you have spot mics on everything. But then all those spot mics have to work together, which becomes the other problem. Now the drummer can play a bit more like he or she wants. And it puts a bigger demand on me. Like, I'm just gonna play it and you sort it. And I don't like that. But it's more like that. But it's still a thing, you still have to play it in a way that you can't just sit there and play whatever and expect it to sound like something else. But it's more like that nowadays than when we recorded drums with, let's say, 3 microphones. But the problem is, of course, that all these mics have to work together in a certain way when it comes to phase, when it comes to frequencies, when it comes to all the things that makes the drums sound natural. Because my goal, and everyone's different, I mean, the things I'm saying now is just my take on it. But for me, it's always important that the drums sound natural, even though it can be modern technical metal, for instance. It's still important that it sounds like drums, and that it is drums. And then it becomes more and more common nowadays to record and not care about the source material, because people just sound replace it. And the irony is, of course, that when I do these workshops that I do, people say, but you made 3 packs for Tune Track. You're the sample guy, aren't you? And I'm not. I'm not the sample guy. I'm just the guy who really knows how to produce drums, and therefore I made sample packs for Tune Track. But even when I use samples, I don't want to 100% sound replace it, because to me it sounds like shit. It's not the real thing, it's not the real vibe. And more importantly, it's not the real drummer. I want the drummer to feel that's me playing. I can hear that that's me playing. But if it's sound replaced, the drummer feels a big distance between the performance and the end product, where he or she feels that I didn't play this is not me, even though all the hits are there. And therefore I like to use samples as a kind of reinforcement, in a way, to add to the sound and not replace the sound, but to strengthen the sound, basically. So that's always my take when it comes to drum production. I haven't really prepared anything for today, so if you have any questions or if you want to steer this in a certain way, feel free.
I have a question.
I have a question.
Hello. Oh, you have a question.
Yeah.
Your question is better.
Hi.
I'm also deaf, so
Oh,
I'm a drummer, remember?
which is the good ear?
They're both fucked.
Do you notice that with even very high quality drum samples running through like Easy Drummer or through Superior Drummer or BFD or whatever, the person who was hitting in the drums, the pressure they hold their sticks might be different to the pressure that the performing drummer that's going to get their drum to replace.
Oh, 100%.
And that's a huge problem because the velocities aren't right.
No, the velocities are never right.
Yeah.
And when I did the first Tune Track pack that turned into 2 Tune Track pack, which is called Duality 1 and 2, I worked with a drummer called Alex Landenberg from Camelot and Syra and whatever. And he and I nerded out. Like, you think you're nerding out here, you don't know anything. Like, we were sitting and like comparing sticks And every new snare, and we went kind of crazy.
Many snares. You have many snares.
I had 30 snares in the studio. I think we tried them all 2 times. And we ended up with like 20, I think. But every new snare, I had to sit down and figure out together with him, because he's the one playing. I was in the control room. Where on the drum head do we want to hit? We don't want to hit in the middle, because no drummer hits absolutely in the middle. You want a different hit with a different stick on every snare drum, and we had all these kinds of drumsticks, trying them out. But also, how are we going to hit this snare drum? Even though, let's say, the tuning is the same, or the stick was the same, we still needed to figure out how do we hit the drum. And we realized, just like you're saying, the velocities are never right. Because if you have 127 layers of velocities, which is the case, the really loose ones are insanely hard to capture. It's just stupid. But also realizing that no one plays like this. No one plays like it's a fly landing on the snare. No one plays that loose. And when it comes to 127, no one plays like, okay, here comes the 127, and just going for it. No one plays like that. Even when you think you're playing hard, I love this. Even when you think you're playing hard, you're not really playing that hard. And one thing that I think people are doing the mistake when they're programming drums is that different tempos in a song affect how hard you're hitting the drum, but also where you're hitting the drum. And all of these things make that a sound replaced performance will never be the same as the real performance. That's just a fact. And that's also why I don't really care, because I never use samples as something that replaces a sound. Since I use it as something that just enhances the sound, I mean, a lot of times when I mix and I blend in my samples, I can have them all on the same velocity, because maybe they're 20% of the sound. They're important, but it's still 20% of the sound. And then sometimes on a fill, if the fill goes da, 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 I go in and program it. Okay, it's a rising velocity, fine. But to me, it's not that important to get all of it right, because I'm not replacing anything. I know producers who do that, and they spend so much time just sitting and trying to make it sound natural, and I prefer to have it natural. And if you can't play it, music is still supposed to sound like you. And an album or any recording is just a timestamp of this is who you are right now. We're recording an album in 2023. This is a timestamp of how you sound now. And if you are playing something that you can't really play, it doesn't matter what instrument. Maybe you have the coolest lick on guitar, but you can't really do it well. And then you say, can we just slow it down and record it on slower speed, and then speed it up and reamp it? And I say, yeah, we can, but we're not going to. Yeah, but we did that on our latest album. That was another producer, that's not me.
That was a shit album.
Yeah. I mean, you're supposed to be a musician. As a musician, you have to have some sort of pride in your work.
Preach.
Right? I think that's super important. I don't think that we should use, and I'm the guy sitting in front of that computer 12 hours a day and have been doing so for 20, 25 years. I still don't think that we should use all the tools that are available if it interferes with your actual performance as a musician. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And to me, that's just not who I am as a producer. Then you can go to someone else, and that's fine. No shame on that, but that's just not how I work.
Jacob, I had a quick story about slowing down stuff. There's a German band, well, they're probably not around, but when I was in Fate, I was young and super sexy. Anyway, they were called Chroming Rose. Has anyone heard about Chroming Rose from Germany? Yeah, like Halloween rip-off kind of. And 2 guitar players, and they couldn't play their solos. So they hired me, and I got paid a shitload of money from EMI in Germany to play their solos. Took an hour to do the entire album. Because it goes like this, so I had to sit with the guys, and they showed it to me slow. The producer was furious. They tried for 2 weeks. For fuck's sake, know your shit before you. And they hired me. I was 19. I was desperate for any kind of money to food. You know, food is good. I tried to eat rocks in Copenhagen. There was no protein and stuff like that. So that was so stupid. I thought, why don't you do some other stuff that you can play yourself? No, it has to be this way. German. Sorry, no. Sorry, no. Okay. Sorry, Mark. So yeah.
You forgot the accent.
Yeah.
It has to be this way.
Yeah. So that was really quick money. It's super easy. It was just all the white keys of a piano on a guitar. Oh, good God, you know. So I understand it. It's slowing down the guitar is blasphemy.
Yes.
To do that, it would sound like fucking Donald Duck.
But it's the same thing with when drummers ask if they want to record something that sounds and they can't do it. So they say, can we just play and then we paste in the other 16 notes. That's when you just go, get the fuck out of here. And that's just how it is for me. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I also agree with this. There's a practical aspect, right? If you like book the studio, you have a certain amount of money, you need to get a record done, and then I guess these are very hard. Guitar player is sitting there, they can't do the lines, the producer steps in and records it for them, or stuff like that. Is that something you would shy away from because you only have the money?
It depends. When I make an album or any kind of recording, my first question is always, what do you want? And with that I mean, what do you want me to do? Am I your engineer? I can be your engineer. If I'm your engineer, don't ever ask me what I think. If I'm your engineer, don't ever ask me to have any creative input. Because if I do, and this is why most people hire me, because they do want that. But if they don't want that, and 2 days in, they're like, what do you think? That's not my job. I'm the engineer. Yeah, but what do you think? Are you asking? Yes. Do you give me that power? Because I get power hungry. And that's not a bad thing. That sounds a bit German. It's okay, I have a German name. I can get away with it. Jakob Herrmann. And what I mean with that is there's nothing wrong with me doing what I do best. Like, I'm seriously born to be a producer. I've never written a song in my life. I've played since I was 5. I started as a piano player. Never tried to write a song. I'm not interested. But if you give me anything, I can make it better. And I've always known that, and that's what I do. So if you hire me to be an engineer, don't give me that influence over your music, because I will take it. But if I ask, so what do you want me to do? We want you to produce it. Okay, but then I produce it. And that also means that if you're trying to do something that you can't do, and you're asking me to do those things, slow down the recording or paste some, like, sure, I'll do it to an extent, or I'll do it if I know that this is going to be fine. It's still going to be a performance. I'm not against piecing things together, but I don't like the cheating when it takes over the whole production. And then I'm just not your guy. So that's the first conversation I always have with an artist. And they have to be ready for that answer. And if they want something else, then I say, okay, that's fine, but then I'm the engineer. Then I'm not producing. And if they want a producer that is producing but also helping them and not challenging them, then I'm not that guy. And I lose a lot of jobs because I'm like that. But I also gain a lot of jobs because I'm like that. Because I know I get a lot of work because, let's go to Jakob. He's a horrible dictator style producer, but it's awesome.
Then you also guarantee a fine end result.
Sure.
Because you will be to blame. This sounds like shit, Jakob.
Yeah.
Where did you go wrong?
Yeah, and also I know, and I've always known, I'm not going to make any money from this job. You know, that's not why I do it. So if I have dedicated my whole life to this job, then at least let me do it on my own premises. Because otherwise, why would I do it? Why would I do something that doesn't really give me any real money if I'm doing things that I hate for someone else? It makes no sense, right? So, but that's my approach, and that's why I'm saying that, you know, now, sure, I sound like a horrible person, and in ways, I kind of am. But
You're a sweet
I'm,
person.
you know, I'm great to work with if you want that, and if you don't want that, then don't choose me. I know other people you can go to. That's fine. I worked with a band in the States, and we did a 7-week production, and they did an interview after. And it was a video interview, which made it even funnier. It was on their tour bus, and they got the question, so how was it working with Jakob? Oh, it was horrible. He came over from Sweden, half of us never even met him, and he put us through the grinder, man, and it was hard, and every day was a struggle, and you know, it was in New Orleans, and we wanted to go out and party, and he said, yeah, you can do that if you earn it. If you don't earn it, if you were bad in the studio, you sit at home, and the rest of us go out. So the slogan became "Earn your beer." Earn your beer, and we go out afterwards, and it made everything better. So in the interview, they're like, "Oh, it was horrible, and we had to earn our beer, and it was, you know," and they just talk about, "Oh, and this happened, and then one time he did this thing, and it was like we're sitting there sweating." Okay, so that's interesting way of working. So for the next album, what approach will you have? Oh, same thing. You know, going back to Jakob for sure, because they want that.
End result.
Yeah, and it was fun. It was great, but it's supposed to be hard. It's the same thing. Honestly, it's the same thing that you do here. Are you going to Sweden? Yeah, I'm going to go to Free Guitar Camp and expect it to be easy and chill.
It's super easy.
Like that. If you think that, then you're doing it wrong. You know, if you're doing something, recording an album, going to this camp, whatever, to better yourselves, to make the absolute best that you can of yourself and your music. If you walk out of the studio and go, that was easy, then you didn't do it right. You're supposed to come out like, you know, like an athlete, like a soccer player. They're in the best shape ever, and after every game, they can barely walk and they're sweating, and you know, it's horrible. It's the same thing. You're supposed to go away from this camp after a week, fingers bleeding, and feeling like I've never been better than I am now, and it was worth it, and I feel great, and I feel proud about what I did, but it was hard work. It's supposed to be the same in the studio. And what no one thinks about is that it's the same for me. I'm not sitting there with any band. I'm not sitting there, okay, play again. But how? Just do it better. That's not how I work. I do the same thing to me that I expect from others. I'm very a part of it and trying to, like, okay, let's try this approach, and like not giving up until it's the best it can be. That puts a lot of strain on me too. But if I feel we're doing it as a team, and then all those things about, you know, slowing down a guitar recording so you can play it, or, oh, it's just going to be sample replaced, I don't need to do that fill that good. No, we're doing the fill again. Like, it's an approach, and if you have that approach, then you choose a person that has the same approach. That's just, you know, that's always my view of it. Yellow Jacket, Sir.
Yeah, what was the album that you worked on with them, and they said it was awful, but they wanted to do the same thing again?
They're not around anymore. They're called yeah. No,
Too much.
yeah.
It's too much.
No, the pandemic killed them actually. Not killed them literally. I just heard what that sounded like. All of them, 5 people. No, I'm actually going to the singer's wedding in November.
So he's alive.
He's alive. They're called Lull Water, Lull Water. and the album is called Voodoo, because they did 2 albums first that sound like shit, and then they did the album with me that sounds great. So,
Said in the most humble of ways, which is true.
but I knew that they had the right approach, because the first thing they told me was, just so you know, we're not recording to a click track. And my only response was, you better be fucking good then. And we were. So it's, you know, it's fine. It's fine to be cocky if you can live up to it. Anyway, I feel like I strayed.
Yeah. The drums, we like drums. I have a question, because, you know, many of us, because it is a great tool if you sit in your apartment and you want to manifest your musical ideas, Michael Weinberg, to have things, because you can write music, and then what? Who's going to do it for you? And maybe you don't, or you can't afford it, or you get, you know, nervous in the studio, the red light, fucking hell, I've never played worse. I've tried it a million times. That's why I learned to record myself. Because also working with jaded, not you, not Jacob, the jaded sound engineers, like, can we take a coffee break? No, I would like to do it again. I played it wrong. It's fine. No, but I missed the note. It's fine. Coffee break, and you know. So I started to record myself and so on. But it's so many things. It's one thing to play well. You all play well. It's a different thing to write music, and how do you actually turn music into something that's listenable. It's a completely different ball game, and you don't have to know everything. And you know, and something like Easy Drummer, for instance, or Superior Drummer, is really good to start with if you don't have the most fabulous drummer. Sure. You don't have Jacob to go to, and so on. Then it's really, really good. But what I would like to know is the extremely unsexy process of recording a pack of 1 million recordings, and then you have to, they tweak the sound. They do that at Tune Track. Former, my name, Mattias Eklund, who, well, he's not the CEO anymore, but sort of owner of the company and so on. He lost almost his eyesight for just tweaking wave files for the past, 20 years or so. Just looking at them, where does it begin? Sorting out 1 million, you know, kick, blah, blah, blah. They say, oh, you have 27 snare hits that all have to line up. So when you hit it, it's not boom, oh, we need less space, you know. So it's a painstaking process. You wouldn't believe it. There's nothing fun about it. You know, as a user, it's great. And I use your stuff. It's like last year we had this soft soap and wishful thinking. That's Jacob's favorite.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Lovely stacks, great sounding snare, and it's already, that's one thing. I like to write music, but I want to spend 1 million hours tweaking it, and so that's what you do. So and so on. So I love when something sounds great right away, and you can't really manipulate it to death either in the mix, because then you ruin what Jacob thought. This is it. This is good. This is finished. You know. So, but just tell us about the process of making like Duality 1 and 2 and the big room, the big stage.
I mean, you're saying
how do you do it?
You're saying it's not sexy. Haven't you seen the promo video? It looks super sexy.
Exactly.
That's the funny thing. The promo video is always like the drummer is like hitting a crash in slow motion.
Yeah.
They're like tuning a thing. And,
just before the mental breakdown.
Yeah, and then I would always love to have like that's the promo, and then I always wanted to release the real. It's like 5 water bottles. The drummer is like only in his boxers, and you know, horrible long day of doing.
And silence in between as well.
Yeah. The most common one is doing, and then sometimes I go on the talk back. Heard you breathe. Go again. Doom. Doom. The drum chair is making a sound.
Farted, sir. I heard your fart in the silence.
It's horrible. And the funny thing is, I've actually done a pack that I did in 2016 for Tune Track's competitors, Addictive Drums. I did that in Benny Andersson's studio. And then I was also hitting the drums. So when Tune Track contacted me and said, we're making a new metal pack, and when we're compiling names of producers, you always end up in the conversation. Would you want to do one? my first thought was, fuck that. Because I've done it, and it's horrible. But now I realized, oh, with Toon Track, I get to choose a drummer.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. So let him sit there and sweat it out. And it was terrible. It was the Duality one was worse when we had Alex, because then it was in my studio and we had the window between us, and he had to sit in there and be so quiet and do all the hits, and he went into like some kind of weird headspace where time didn't exist, and it was just like it's like torment. It's just like, you know, it's weird. It gets super weird. And we're sitting in the control room like he could see us. He's sitting like this. And then wait. Oh, the worst one was the cymbals.
Yeah, 2 hours later, finally.
And you can't breathe. You're like, and he can't hear when it dies out. We can, because we have the compressors on, so we hear like we super compressed the sound, so we could hear when it died out. And he's just looking at us like this, not breathing. And we're like, what do you think? Done? Hold on.
Indiana Jones.
I think no, it's, hold on, Alex. Yeah, there. Okay, next one. And he's like, okay.
It's not really about music.
Yeah, and then he goes, and goes again. And then he's looking at me because he's waiting for me to tell him next one. And he can see me because I'm listening. But I'm also sitting with the two guys from Toon Track in there. And we're like,
Yeah, hey man, I sucks.
This sucks for him.
hold on, Alex. And he was like, you fucking dicks. Like, he was so upset. But when we did the third pack up on the stage in the theater, we did it in my studio still in the same control room, but it's connected to the stage. And Darby, my friend, or our friend, was up there.
Devin Thompson.
Yeah, Devin Townsend's drummer. He was up there and doing the same thing, but then he had us on a screen. So he had a camera so we could see him, and we had a camera so he could see us on a screen. But he couldn't see us unless he actually wanted to, because the screen was there. So he was more fine than Alex. He didn't see us going like, yeah, coffee, and you know. Also, super weird thing, the shortest story ever. The reason why I know Darby and why Darby is now he's a fantastic drummer, but the reason why he's playing with so many people, all of that came from, he took a gig with Key Marcello, who I actually
went drinking.
went drinking for 7 hours yesterday. He took a gig with Key Marcello, and they didn't know each other, and he said yes, and then because of that he came to Sweden, and we recorded, and then they had a show in Gothenburg, like an ongoing 2-month show, 80s thing, and then he wanted Ia to come there, so he wrote him on Facebook, on Messenger, and wrote, hey man, you know, if you want to come to the thing, and it would be nice to meet, and we've been talking a bit, blah, blah, blah. It just turned out that it was the wrong Matthias Eklund. It was the Toon Track guy that he had never met. But, so then he's like, oh, sorry, wrong guy. And Matthias was like, I'll come. And he did. And they became like best friends. They're super besties. You know, both me and Matthias was at Darby's wedding, for instance. You know, they were super besties, and because of that, it led to another thing. It led to another thing. It led to another thing. Which is so that little mistake turned into a career opener. You never know who you're talking to. Anyway, when we did that pack, like just having the. Like getting that job was interesting because I asked Toon Track, what do you want? And they said, no, it's your vision. You do you. We're not going to have anything. We're just going to tell you if there's a technical restraint on what you want to do. Apart from that, you just totally do your thing, which was great because I could do my own thing.
It's a lovely, lovely, lovely theater where we played with Free Kitchen. You recorded us with the live stream.
Oh yeah, the live stream, yeah.
Chris, halfway through the live stream, long before, you know, COVID, blah, blah, blah stuff, it was in 2014. 14. Cameras were running and people paid all over the planet and sat there. And there was this asshole in the audience and Chris just had it. Our bass player threw his bass away, jumped up, boom, boom, boom. You know, what the fuck, started to fight. And I was like, all right, how's it going out there on planet Earth? We just have a bass player who is, get the fuck out. You know, it was a completely idiot.
He walked and threw him out.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the controller, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. It was a million things that could go wrong. It was actually, we were ahead of our time that way.
Yeah.
Cranes and all kinds
Oh
of
yeah,
shit.
9 cameras and cranks and
you
everything.
were under a lot of pressure. So it's just, this is not fun anymore.
No, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was cool.
And that was before COVID, and it's still one of the best live streams done in Sweden, I think.
Yeah. It's
You
really,
know?
really cool. With a fist fight. As a
With a fist fight.
Yes. So, yes.
But no, the theater is like, I told them that I wanted a metal kit that is natural. That was the Duality kits. And then when we did the big stage one up on the theater, I just wanted different, like that room is insane. It's absolutely
Very nice.
mind-blowing when you play something in it. It's not like a warehouse big sound. It's more like, because there's no room like that is shaped that way, because it's round and the seats are in fabric, so it's not like this crazy enormous flight hangar sound, but it's still an insanely big wooden room. So
It's like a small Albert Hall.
basically, yes.
Yeah.
So we decided to put mics everywhere. I wanted mics everywhere, up in the chandelier, out in the audience, up on the balconies. It was super fun. I think we ended up with 10 room mics, just, you know, and then 4 drum kits, and every drum kit would be, okay, let's do a, which was weird, because this was right before Taylor Hawkins in Foo Fighters died, and I decided I wanted a Taylor Hawkins drum kit. So I rented his exact drum specifications, and called it, I have a preset called the Hawk, and it was done right before he passed away, which was a fun coincidence, because I was a big fan of his. And of course I needed a Bonham sound. Of course I needed like a Toto sounding drum kit and a Phil Collins. So then we rented a kit without bottom heads, because we wanted that Phil Collins style. So that was more fun in another way, because then I could experiment more, but the Duality ones were more do your thing and do your sound, your metal sound. And we decided to, like, I wanted it to sound as natural as possible, because people don't realize that you don't need by default to sample replace stuff. It's not necessary by itself. It should be something you do to add, like I said before. For instance, here's an unmixed song. This is just something I sent to the guitar player so he could mess with it. I haven't even started mixing this album. We haven't recorded the vocals yet. And I pulled this up as an example because I sent this to a few people, and most of them asked the same thing. Wow, that mix is great. Ah, it's not mixed. Yeah, but it sounds great. What samples are those? And there's no samples. There's not a single sample. It's just mixed live drums. And they still just assume, but it sounds good. Imagine if this was guitar. You would be pissed off. Right? What did you do to enhance the picking? No, it's me playing. Yeah, but what plugin is that makes you sound so good? I've been practicing, motherfucker. That's what's so important to me. And this drummer is he's a drummer from a band called Cane Hill from Louisiana. And it sounds like this, and this is just the mixed live drums, basically. It's actually kind of cool song. It sounds like this. Super weird riff. So, like, when your first go-to thought is, wow, that sounds great. What samples are those? And all I've done, this is just EQ and compression. That's it. There's nothing else. The secret sauce is not secret. It's just very well produced drums. But if your go-to thought is always, wow, that guitar sound is awesome. What amp plugin is that? No, it's my amp. Oh, cool. But what did you do to make it sound so even when you play? It's called my right hand. Right? The same thing. Why do the drums sound so good? Because it's a good drummer that is well recorded. And it frustrates me that is the thought process. It was the same thing when me and you know him, Roberto Laghi.
Yeah, of course. Roberto did
A fantastic producer from Gothenburg as well. He did he worked with you and
he
in
saved my
Flames
ass.
and.
He saved my ass from the third record.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I had an absolute nervous breakdown. I didn't, but it was horrible.
He was like the wolf in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
We need to call the wolf.
Exactly. And I cried on his shoulder, just fucking help me out. Because the third album, I don't know if you heard it, but it's like semi-acoustic. We thought we did 2 metal albums, Spanking Hour and Appetizer, Spanking Out. And then we did this one, we're tired of doing the same thing. You know, click track, overdub. We're so good. We're gonna play together as a trio, live, in the not studio, but underneath Fryshuset, under Fredman studio, in a big shitty warehouse. Dreadful sound. We didn't know to mic things. And of course it sounded like crap. You have a so well recorded drum and 1 guitar, and I couldn't have as much guitar, distortion, because it would be his. And then we went to Denmark the thing is, I listened back, so these songs are good. The sound is crap, we didn't really play well. So I spent 4 months with shakers trying to follow the drifting drummer and mandolins and zithers and acoustic guitars, and just to make it something else. It was a dreadful thing. And then we went to Denmark and we mixed it at Denmark's radio in Odense. And then we came back and thought, yeah, the mix is done, it's probably good. And my wife said, great, sounds like Toto. I was like, what? Well, it's very nice and kind sounding.
Divorced. Huh?
Yeah. So, and then I realized, this is super wimpy, isn't it? It's really wimpy. And then I went mad and went out and bought a mixing desk that I didn't know anything about. And just, I'm gonna remix it. And we already sent a DAT to Japan because they paid good money for the master and everything. So burn the DAT before I'm doing this. And then I did it completely like a punk mix because this is so wimpy. I'm gonna distort everything. Dark red on the fader, just static red. Yeah. And then burn the DAT. It sounds like shit, And then what am I gonna do? I was dead tired just by seeing. Because Joachim, the drummer, he was great ideas, not so groovy. So it was going in and I was could one snare end up? It was, and cowbell said no, flam. It was not fun. It was nothing like, you know, where you can see the music.
Yeah.
It was just ADATs and shit, you know, work of Satan. But then, Roberto Loggi, you're good. You did B-Thong and you know what to do. I have a week off. I shall hire you. And he just sorted it out. Oh, we'll do this. Good. You know, his compressors. And I learned and I learned and I learned. So this sounds great. Some distortion. This was way before Saint Anger and less distortion. But the snare, yeah, we need more aggression. We'll tweak it a bit. And then I said, for the next one, we did Dead Soul Man. I record everything. I go to him for mixing and packaging. And I learn and I learn. And he did Move, he did Organic. He did Land of the Freaks, and then we slowly started to drift apart a bit.
Now you hate each other.
Yeah, no. We're still okay. But then I thought he was actually, I don't know, he was in a funny spot, and he wanted to play We, You, or whatever it was called. So I want to work.
Yeah.
I want to work. I pay good money for this, and so on. And then I started to work with other people myself, pretty much.
That's just a normal thing.
But he's a great guy.
Oh,
And
Roberto
he's
is
good with drums.
fantastic, and Roberto is like me. I actually, in a way, I kind of learned this from working with him because he won't give up until it's like it's supposed to be, and that's one thing that I really liked when working with him, and that I started doing myself in a way because of him. But we did.
Drums. You spoke about sound replacement.
Yeah. He and I did the latest Raised Fist album together, and we had the same thing, same reaction. People said these drums sound amazing. What plugins are that? Like what samples are you using? And we're both like getting really aggravated. Like this is our work, and people just assume that because it's good, it has to be sample replaced. And that's really shitty. And therefore, there's no way for me to sit here and talk about how to record drums, because I could sit here and talk for 2 weeks and you would learn 1%. And that's not me calling you stupid. That's just how it is. And my point is just that understanding about drums will make you better songwriters. It will make you better band members. It will make you better at recording. If you decide to take that way of thinking like I have. You can also say that, you don't know anything and we're doing it this other way, which is totally fine. Like I said, I'm just speaking of who I am. But, so I still use samples, and like I said before, I want them to add something. But the funny thing is, if you have a good recorded drum performance that is well mixed, you can do basically whatever you want with the samples, and that's what's so fun. When you don't rely on the samples, you can use them as funny ingredients in a dish that you're making. The good thing is that you can just take it away, so it's like cooking, but with the option to hit Control Z, right? Oh, I don't want too much salt, and it's like magic. You just take the salt out again. Let's try some pepper. Nope, take it out again. It's fantastic. But the cool thing is, and when I learned this years ago, that if you have a drum performance that is great, using samples is so much fun, because you can do so much weird shit that is just enhancing the drums. But if you're relying on the samples, it won't be as good, and you will paint yourself into a corner that you can't really get out from. And that's why I don't like being dependent on samples. And that, I think, is really, really important. So for my next... Hello. For my next example here, it's the same drummer but another project, weirdly enough. So same thing. Here's a drum performance without any samples. sometimes people say it still sounds sampled, but what they mean with that, it sounds even. That's just because it's a good drummer and there's some studio magic. But again, this is just EQ and compression. There's nothing magical about it. It's just very well made. Then I add the samples. As you can hear, I really like ringy snares. This is my preset that when I made Duality, this is Duality 2, and when I used the presets, or I made the presets and I sent them out to friends and I said, try them out and see what you think. Everyone liked this. Everyone said, this is the best preset I've ever heard. And therefore I named it everyone's favorite preset.
That's the one I use.
And that's the one he uses.
Yes.
And then the day after you told me, I spoke to Björn Charlotte in Flames, and he said the same thing. I'm only using everyone's favorite preset for my demos.
Because it's packaged, it's ready to go.
Yeah. And it's not, you're not supposed to do anything with it. You're just supposed to, you know, don't fuck with it. Just use it. But if you play just the MIDI drums, it sounds really bad. Weird, right? So that sounds weird, but then when you add that,
Is there any overtone from the recorded snare? There?
no, that was just the samples.
No. From when you combine them, do you use any of the?
Oh yeah. This.
Because like the overtone is way longer, obviously.
Oh yeah, but this is the recorded drums, the real drums.
Okay.
And then I combine that. And this is not done mixing, it's still even, but it's, as you can hear, I'm not depending on the samples.
But
I'm
it
just,
gets better.
yeah, I'm just using it, and as I said, if I'm not depending on, like, it will still sound fine without the samples. Then I can just use the samples as a flavor, and then I can, you know, let's swap to the preset called Meat and Potatoes. I know, the funniest thing about making these things are naming the presets. Let's use Bryan Adams knockoff 24 Till I Die, because it's a 24-inch bass drum. As you can hear, it still sounds the same. It's just a tiny, tiny little flavor. Oh, I don't know if anyone here knows Katie Ballou.
Yes.
She's coming here next week. I got to know her in New Orleans 5 years ago, and just because I'm there all the time, and I walked into a bar and I start talking to the bartender. It's her, and we meet a couple of times and we become friends. And I find out she's a guitar player, and she finds out I'm a music producer. And then she said, "Where in Scandinavia are we from again?" Gothenburg, Sweden. Really? I've been there. Have you? Yeah. I go to this guitar camp. Oh, with Ia? And we've known each other for over 20 years. And that was a really weird coincidence.
Small planet.
Yeah. So anyway, this preset is called Lower D, as a tribute to Lower Decatur Street in New Orleans, where that's not where I met her, but it's a place we frequent.
Yeah.
So switching presets again. Still sounds nice. And also there's another lesson to be learned here. Ringy snares. Don't be afraid to let snares ring. Everyone just wants things to be tight and packaged, and they're afraid of the ringy snares. But then when you put it in the music,
Exactly.
you don't think about that ringy snare. It just makes it sound more aggressive. And the big rule about learning about anything about recording drums is that everyone makes that same mistake in the beginning. I did too. Because that's how we see recording. Like I said, if you record a guitar cab, it sounds nice, it sounds like it should. Now let's put mics on it, and that's it. People try to make the drums sound like they hear them on albums, and make them sound like that in the room. That doesn't work. If you have a snare that's ringy, ooh, it rings, dampen it, dampen it, dampen it, quick. And then you do that, and then you take out all life, but at least now it's not bugging me. And then you record it, and then you put on bass and guitars and vocals, and it's just dead.
Claustrophobic.
It sounds horrible. What are we gonna do? Sound replace it. Find a ringy snare. It's so stupid, right? You could just have made it to begin with. So there's a lesson there somewhere. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm not a recording artist. I'm not even a professional musician, so maybe it's a stupid question, but
No stupid.
when
It's like South Park. There are no stupid questions, just stupid people. My favorite quote. Go on.
No, when I listen to what you did, when you add the flavor, as you say, it sounds like the loudness of the drums gets, to me it sounds like the loudness of the drums gets bigger. Don't you ever run into trouble with whoever is mixing afterwards? Because they say you made the drums too loud and you're taking the space of the frequencies of the other instruments.
What are you talking about? Drums can never be too loud. No, I mean, one of the things that I really like is working with other people. Because that keeps me really good at what I do. I think it's amazing to work with someone that I know is good and respect. Like for instance, there's a producer called Jakob Herrmann, and he and I have done probably 15, 20 albums together that I've mixed, or that I've recorded and produced, and he mixed them, or we co-produced and in some way worked together. And that means that I have to be the best I can be. I can't like half-ass it, because I want to give him the tracks, and I want him to just raise the faders and go, hell yeah, I see exactly where he's going with this. There's a plan here, there's a sound, everything works together. And if you do that, then, you know, a monkey could mix an album that is well recorded, because the mix is in the source material. The problem is when you record something that is just, there's drums there, do they sound good? They'll be sound replaced. Okay, what about the guitars? There's DIs in there. Okay, so I have to choose the sound? Yeah. Okay. How about the vocals? They're recorded. How? With a mic. Okay. Like, let's try to put the level somewhere above that. And if it's well recorded, it's easy to work with. And when using samples in this way, you have the source material, like the real drums, and that goes into a drum bus. And bussing is when you take a lot of tracks and feeding it into a stereo channel. That's called bussing. So I send track 1 to 20, which is all drums, into a stereo channel. And then on that channel, I do other stuff. I bake it together and I make it gel together so it sounds more uniform and like one instrument, which it is. It is one instrument. But then I add samples, and then I also send them into the same drum bus. And how I treat that drum bus, it won't get louder. It will just add more material, basically. But let's say that the loudness, however you want to meter that. Let's say the loudness is at 70 on that drum bus and the capacity is 100. If you send in 70 and then you add the samples and the samples have 20, then you end up with 90. So then you just lower the samples a bit and lower the source material a bit. So it adds up to 70 again. And then it doesn't feel, then it doesn't become loud. It just becomes different.
That's mixing.
That's basically, you know, what mixing is. It's, in theory, mixing is super easy. It's just doing it. But that's the, you know, that's with everything. I totally understand the theory of tapping. Can I do it? No. I totally understand the theory of playing a B7. But can I go from an A7 to a B7? No, because I'm really bad at guitar.
You're a drummer. Lots of questions.
Go on. Who goes first? You go first.
Which person?
You.
Me? That.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so
With the Epiphone. No, it's not an Epiphone. What is it? With the ball cap.
For comparison.
Yes.
Comparison.
That's right. Now I see. Bad eyes, bad ears. Shouldn't even be live.
Today, recording methods, recording gear are tip-top than ever. You spend a lot of time with band to recording, and finally people listen music in their smartphone, so the sound is shitty, whatever.
What, I don't understand the question. I hear so badly, so...
The
One more.
Recording methods and the recording gear are tip-top today.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to get a good sound quickly.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Easier than it used to be, yeah.
But
No. He's saying the gear that you use for recording is getting better and better and better, but then people listen to the music on their phone. It
Yeah.
sounds shitty regardless of what you
Yeah.
do.
the sound is shitty. whatever.
Yeah, that's just a, I mean, that's just a flavor, I think. I mean, I can listen on my Apple AirPods and I think that it sounds fine. I can even listen on my phone speaker holding up a phone and I can hear if it's a shitty production. If it's a good production, it sounds pretty good.
I listen to my phone quite a lot when I mix.
Yeah.
Car, phone, if you get the essence of what you want the listener to
Exactly.
hear through the phone, or if you hear there's something funny with the facing, or
Yeah. Yeah.
because everything is packaged together, this ugly little Chinese speaker,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, well, I hear what I want to hear.
If you start, like,
I understand.
there's a program that you put on your master in your mix program, which if your computer and phone is connected to the same Wi-Fi, it plays the audio through your phone with a latency of like, I don't know, a second or something, which is great because when I mix, I put the phone next to me, and I mute the speakers and I play the mix on my phone. And just like Ia says, if I react to it, because music is about feelings. If I feel that I can feel the song and hear everything on my shitty little phone, then it's a good mix. In a way, I agree with you, and in a way, I don't really like.
I would say exactly the same, Bruno, because I spend a lot of time tweaking. Because sometimes it's like, why bother to do all these little details? And somebody has an iPhone for 6 million euros, and they have headphones for €1. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. but for me, I have to do it.
Well, then your job is to make it sound good in those
Exactly.
headphones.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Yeah. I usually say, back
And
in the days,
car stereos have never been good, and people.
they're great.
Most people listen to music in their cars. So,
For
you know.
mixing, it's good. Car is the shit. Burn a CD.
oh yeah, no, well what I mean is like,
I know.
people enjoy listening to music in their cars,
Yeah.
but it's not a good system.
No.
Also, if you're on the driver's seat, you're basically 80% listening to the left side of the mix, which is stupid, but yeah, whatever.
It's like here.
Mr. Yellow Jacket.
yeah, so I'm curious about the sampling. I'm very new to like recording and production stuff. So where do you get your samples from, and how do you make your presets?
Next question.
But I'm just more about the process.
I'm so elitist that I just use my own samples.
Cool.
I mean, now it's easy. I've made 3-4 packs. But even before that, I liked to make my own samples to make it suit a project, for instance. But of course I use other sample packs as well. I'm not that weird that I'm just like, it's not mine so I can't use it. There are many great sample packs, both with tune track stuff and also slate trigger and whatever. I don't care where it comes from if it does the job. But I don't give a shit of where things come from, and also don't fall for the brand scam. I mean, tune track is great. I love tune track. I have to say that it's in my contract. No, I really like them, but can you only use metal branded sample packs for metal?
Of course not.
Of course not. Are you only allowed to use metal branded sample packs for metal music? No, you can use it with whatever music. And my point is that there's no... In audio production, there's a lot of rules. And when you know most of them, that's when it gets really fun. Because then you can break them. Which is what I really like. But also being aware that companies, their job is to sell stuff, and they will brand stuff for you. You're a drummer, okay? Here's a new bass drum pedal. Finally, you can sound like, now you can have the right foot of Nico McBrain in Iron Maiden. Okay, did he use that pedal? No, he used an old shitty pedal. But this is for you, and that's how you sell stuff, right? If you're I get it. I also have very fancy stuff at my studio. I have stuff that are more fancy than anything. I actually have the world's heaviest guitar cab at my studio, made out of granite. You would crap your pants if you saw it.
Bring it on the plane.
It's stupid. It's insane. There's 4 of them in the world. But I love fancy gear, of course. But if you're a good guitar player, you can pick up a decent guitar and make it sound good. That's, and also, you can use stuff that is not branded for what you're supposed to use it with. And yes, Mr. Yellow Jacket, this ties together with your question in a way, because I never think, because it hurts, I'm doing great, aren't I? No, I don't like to think when I work with music. I like to feel, and that's also something that I think is really important. When I feel first, and then when I know what I feel and what I want to come out of the music, then I can do all the technical stuff. But it has to start with a feeling. If I'm working with someone, I'm working with that person to have a certain feeling come out. I want to talk about the lyrics. Yeah, but this is the guitar solo. Sure, but this is a guitar solo about, what's the song about? Oh, it's about my brother who died. Damn, I actually had that conversation a few months ago. That was like, well, shit. Then we need to make the solo speak that. But if he would say, oh yeah, this is about a party I went to once. Okay, then the solo should be about that. And the same thing goes even down to drum samples. Like, what do I choose? I don't know. There's no rule. You just go with it. And a great example is that there's a pack out that is just for metal drummers or metal producers. These are snares that will melt your face, and they're so damn evil, and the producer made them, not me, did these albums with these super evil bands. And I thought, oh yeah, they sound really like aggressive in the aftertone, like in the sustain, but I don't need the attack because I have that in the recording. but I want to make this drum really shitty. And there was 12 samples of these snare drums. So I took all 12 of them and I loaded them in the recording program. So for every time the drummer hit the snare, 12 samples went off. And then I compressed it, so I compressed out all the attack. So I just have the ring, so it's 12 snare drums ringing just in the background. And when I tell people this, they're like, damn, I need to hear this mix. This is gonna be the most brutal fucking mix ever. I said, you wanna hear it? Yeah, dude. 12 snare drums just sampled from that pack by that producer? Sure.
I'm in it for money, so money on the wall. If you don't answer, I'll just hang it on the wall.
That was the song. Right? Was I not allowed to do that? Of course I was. And that's my point. That goes with your question. You don't think too much, feel more. Just learn how things are working, learn what things are doing, but then just go for feelings and the result will be good.
I have a really quick follow-up. If you're doing...
He's gonna kill me soon.
Yeah. It's way over time.
Oh, if you have questions, I mean, I'm not running away this second, so if you feel like that, oh, I could do this question after, you know,
It's
outside
going to be
the
a
tent.
10-minute break.
Yeah.
Yes, but you are no pee caca. You will piss in your pants, and then we come back, and then we're going to introduce you as well. But so you can talk, or maybe you can send. You know, he's easy to find, or stick around and talk a little bit.
Find me wherever.
You want to start it's driving a long way, so you're not going to continue all night either. So maybe we can have a little break. We'll do this first, and then we have a little break, and you was doing his thing for an hour or so, and then we can talk a little bit, like 30 minutes of actual talking. Is that good?
Sure.
We have well, I take off interviews. So, but I have combined your names.
That's a long name.
And to make it confusing, we have a giveaway. I told you. I kept these speaker cable things in so you can almost not see your name. So there's more things in here. And this one too. And these socks. And these pair of scissors. And this cookbook. And you want keys to the car. And this coffee cup. So we got to do this now. And I will. So what we're doing here is, Jacobs, you choose. We will have 5 Easy Drummer 3, which is a great software to begin with. And just for the record, I am a pain in the ass with my friends in 2-track. And the good thing is Matthias is my man, and so on. And he lives in Spain. And he just sends I'll just pass it on to the tech guys, and they get migraine and nosebleed because it's cold. Easy Drummer is great, but I work in Superior Drummer, which is slightly, you can tweak more things. It will sound the same. And Jacob's, your packages work in both, and so on. But what I do is, it's called Superior Drummer. Why is it that GarageBand can handle quintuplets and your software cannot? And what about the septuplets? What about the 29 tuplets? Why? This is just math. Why can't I grid a 29 tuplet in Superior Drummer? So now they said, because you have a curtain of value. It's straights or triplets, that's it, in various speed, okay? So, but what about the stuff in between? What if I want to do this rubato? What if I want to do this? Oh, so you mean like this? No, that's just the beginning of the rhythm curtain. So, and now we are at this curtain from top to, so yes, and also this, but yes, you need to do this. It's just programming. You know, why is this so hard? So we'll see. There will be a Superior Doom drummer soon. It's like with the curtain of doom, I scroll down to my 73 tuplet. So we'll see. So they sent me actual photo or screen dumps of what I like of stuff like this because, you know, of course, nobody gives a shit. Most people just drag in, yeah, I like Gojira, I'll take that MIDI pack and I'll drag it in and change a few things and move on. But I do everything from scratch and so on. And I need to be able to hear, am I doing the quintuplet or septuplet or quintuplet, whatever tuplet correctly. I want to actually see that I'm doing it correctly, so to make you understand. You have to articulate your music. So I told you yesterday about Pixar and what I want you to hear. So we'll see. There will be the drop, whatever curtain thing from Doom. We'll see. It's in the works. So, but for now, we have 5 packs of Easy Drummer. So 5 of you will have that, and then you get